I want to start to ask you a little bit about your journey and your mission, which then will lead us about your brand and the brand you've created for your ideal target market.
Oh my goodness. I remember this like it was yesterday. My leader has told me that I'm the hardest person he's ever had to manage.
Hmm.
And I'm so confused. You give me all of these arcane projects because you know I like them and I'm good at them, but you're telling me that I'm not what you want. So, who I was at that time is exactly the person I like to advise and coach today. The people who are pattern interrupters, the disruptors, the people that say why not instead of why. And so, my mission today, I'm on a 25-year mission to be the world renowned coach and advisor of these people, as well as the people who lead these people, because there's an opportunity cost when they're silenced. So that's the origin story, plus why it is I'm so passionate about these people who I call modern badasses.
Welcome to the Turbo Branding Show, where we will help you ignite your growth by leveraging your brand to grow faster, easier, and more successfully. You'll discover insightful conversations from our powerful guests, founders and CEOs and advisors of thriving businesses who are sharing how they've successfully built strong brands to help you expand and grow. I'm your host, Sue Kirshner, and today we are welcoming my friend, Parissa Behnia, to the show. So let's delve into this episode and turbocharge your brand. First, thank you so much for being here, Parissa.
Oh my goodness, this is so much fun. I remember when you and I were first introduced in the before times, and I just so immediately enjoyed how smart you are, how intentional you are, how much you love to serve your clients powerfully. So this is so much fun. As far as I'm concerned, this is play.
Oh,
So how about it? Let's have a good time.
let's play and right back at you with all of those kudos. I appreciate it. But I'm excited to talk with you about your brand and the brand you've created for your ideal target market, because it's an interesting strategy to differentiate and grow your business, but you've kind of branded your audience. And I think that's amazing. So before we jump into some questions, let me start by introducing everyone to Parissa. Parissa Behnia coaches C-suite and senior leaders who are high will, high skill, and have a growth mindset. In other words, they're badasses who go 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, but they don't always check to see if people are strapped in or interested in going for a ride of that kind. So these leaders are high value to a company, but their edges may diminish their value. Parissa is also the author of Modern Badass, Tales from the Leadership Front. And she has taught entrepreneurship seminars. She's a frequent speaker on strategy, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And she's fantastic if you get a chance to hear her. But Parissa is a certified professional coach. She holds a BA from Northwestern University and an MBA from New York University Stern School of Business. And I think she's a really cool person to hang out with. So welcome. And did I miss anything?
No, I was comprehensive. I'm like, who is that? She sounds impressive.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So let's dig in. I want to start to ask you a little bit about your journey and your mission, which then will lead us into the brand discussion of what you've been building.
Oh my goodness. So let's jump back into the Wayback Machine. I, post business school, was working for American Express, which was a great place to cut your teeth when it comes to all things marketing, respecting a brand, understanding what a brand is. And there are still things I talk about to this day that I can 100% attribute to my time at American Express. At that time, I remember this like it was yesterday. It's October 1999, and my leader has told me that I'm the hardest person he's ever had to manage.
Hmm.
And I had gone into that one-on-one thinking that he was going to say, oh my gosh, you're the best thing since sliced bread. Oh my gosh, you're delivering all the numbers we want you to deliver. You're amazing. Keep on doing everything that we've been asking you to do. But when I heard that, I was like, wait, I'm so confused. You give me all of these arcane projects because you know I like them and I'm good at them, but you're telling me that I'm not what you want. And it set me down a path where I got in my own way because I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to ask for clarification on what it means or what it was that they were looking for me. And I also am clear that they didn't also know how to lead me either. So who I was at that time is exactly the person I like to advise and coach today. The people who are pattern interrupters, the change agents, the disruptors, the people that say why not instead of why, the people that say just watch me when someone says that something is impossible. And the issue becomes they move so quickly, or it seems like they speak in half sentences, that instead of people getting really excited about what's possible, instead they're like, oh my gosh, I want to run in the other direction. Oh my gosh, this person is too much. It's too bold, too brash, too colorful. How do we find a way to silence? And so my mission today, I'm on a 25-year mission to be the world-renowned coach and advisor of these people, as well as the people who lead these people, because there's an opportunity cost when they're silenced. There's an opportunity cost when they're exiled. Think about if Steve Jobs had never gone back to Apple after he was exiled in 1985. What would we have lost? Think of if Margaret Thatcher was silenced in the 80s in her heyday. What if Thomas Edison had been silenced? What if Beyonce had been silenced? What would have happened if Serena Williams was silenced? There's a huge opportunity cost that we can't contemplate. It's just too big if we imagine those bold-faced names being silenced. And the same holds true for the people that you and I have never met because someone sidelined or silenced them. So that's the origin story, plus why it is I'm so passionate about these people who I call modern badasses.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we're gonna get back to that in a second about modern badass. But before we do that, I want to talk about the brand of your company, the name. So you've got Sixense Strategy is the name of the company. And I know a lot of businesses, they either put no thought whatsoever into their name, right? Or they agonize over it and what the meaning and all that could be. But can you tell me a little bit about what does Sixense Strategy mean, or what do you want it to mean to your clients?
Oh, I so appreciate this question. Way in the before times, way before I met you, I was working on being very intentional about what I wanted my business name to be. So I worked actually with a brand strategist on this very question. So she asked me a lot of really thoughtful questions, how I show up in the world, what I believe my gifts were, how do my talents come to life? And it really came down to the fact that I am both left-brained and right-brained. I'm one of the most analytical people I know, but I'm also highly intuitive. So what we wanted to do was to bring in this element of sixth sense, bring in the element of that, my intuition, plus the fact that I believe about being purposeful. I believe in being purposeful about what we're creating. So we have sixth sense, it's the hybrid word, it's a made up word.
Yeah.
Sixth sense as well as strategy, and then the two of them coming together. Again, respecting both the left side and the right sides of my brain.
I like it. I like it. All right. So now here's an interesting twist on that, or not necessarily twist, but you took it a step further. And in my mind, you've created a secondary brand, or maybe it's even the primary brand. And we'll talk about that in a second, this modern badass brand. And when I first, started talking to you about it and things like that, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like a product brand, right? You've got a speech, you've got a book, you have this modern badass brand. But really, when you get down to it and you think about it, you branded your target market. And I think that's awesome. That's amazing because you, in essence, made it very easy to understand who you're trying to serve. But by giving it a brand, you almost elevate and give some hope and joy. And I'm not weird. I'm not that different. I can still contribute. And so tell me a little bit about Modern Badass and like what has been the reaction to that name?
Thank you so much for asking it. It's so my book, Modern Badass Tales from the Leadership Front. You can't, it's back there.
Yes.
The kicker on the book is a love story or a love letter, mainly because I wrote this as a love letter to my fellow badasses. I have an understanding of how painful it can be to be wildly misunderstood. I have an understanding and empathy for these people who are well-intentioned and somehow things end up going pear-shaped anyway. And so as part of the mission, you don't have to change who you are. You don't have to contort yourself into a being that other people find acceptable and palatable. All we have to do is find ways to be better understood. And all we have to do is find ways to understand other people better. So this idea, to your point, of uplifting and positive and in the spirit of building community was very intentional. I am too old to try to change someone. And I'm also too old for someone to try to change me. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so what if we were to say yes and instead of no but? And that's really what the premise of this is that modern badasses are perfectly imperfect, just like anybody else is perfectly imperfect. So how do we take all of the stuff, all of their power, and channel their awesome in ways where people say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're on my team, as opposed to, oh my gosh, this person again, I can't believe I have to sit at the table one more time and all the things.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Yeah, I love that. And one of the most important things that I do with my client is help them define their ideal target client or target market. Because as a business owner, we only have so much time, energy, and resources to market ourselves. So you need to pick a niche and to own it. And you've absolutely picked that niche that works incredibly well. But tell me a little bit about how do you reach these people, first of all? So how do you get them to raise their hand and say, am I a badass? Should I be working with Parissa, kind of a thing? And then also just kind of like how do you stay consistent in the way that you go to market and really laser focus in on this niche within leadership coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how do I reach these people? Very at more senior levels of an organization, regardless of the type of advisory or coaching you do, whether it's badasses or executive coaching, which I also do as a general matter. Very few people are hand raisers and will announce on Facebook or Instagram saying, I'm struggling. They just won't, right? So it ends up being more of a word of mouth, silent conversation. It's one-on-one. It's very intentional in terms of the time spent. And it's also, I have one-on-one conversations all the time, and they are not necessarily my target, but they might know my target. Mm-hmm. And so my client base tends to be a blend of companies that have these leaders on their team that they believe in and want to invest in. And then there are people on their own that, I'm tired of doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. So it's subtle. I am very much out there on LinkedIn. I've spoken at Disrupt HRs. I've been on podcasts. So I'm getting my message out this way, and that works for me. The second half of your question in terms of consistency, it really speaks to, and I think this will resonate with you, it really speaks to what I believe my zone of genius is. Mm-hmm. It really speaks to what my passion is in terms of the work that I do. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to work with these people. Mm-hmm. I believe I have gifts and skills that very few people have to work with these people effectively. And also, I have the receipts to prove it. I'm not just saying it because I feel like saying it. Just like you have the receipts of a really awesome work that you've done with and for your clients when it comes to branding strategy, and thinking strategically about the brand strategic value in the marketplace. So it's because I'm uniquely qualified and because I have a love for them, it's easy to stay consistent. If you don't care, if it's just something that you're like, all right, well, I'll try this, everyone will know. Everyone knows that you're phoning it in. And so for anyone out there who suspects that something might be their unique gift and they're afraid to talk about it, lean into that 100%. It is so much more believable when you lean into it than when you run away from it and talk about something else altogether.
Excellent. Excellent. So when people come to your site or when they talk to you or whatever, do you have, other than reading the book, is there a quiz? Is there, again, how do I figure out if, am I a badass or am I
Yeah.
just difficult? So,
Right. No, it's a fair question. So there's a couple of different ways to play when they come to my site. I do actually have a modern badass quiz. It's 7 questions, and then you get instant results at the end of the quiz that tells you where you might live on the modern badass curve, as well as inviting you to a reflection call or exploratory call. I also post videos on LinkedIn most Fridays. And this summer, I took a little bit of a break, but most Fridays on LinkedIn, I post videos and those automatically get uploaded onto my site. And I also have a YouTube channel where people can look at all of the videos I've recorded over the past 3 years or so. So those are some of the ways to interact in addition to reading the book.
okay, excellent. So here's a question for you, as I'm sure a lot of other business owners are wondering as well. I have multiple brands, right? So where do I put my energy and my emphasis? Because you've got Sixense strategy, you've got Modern Badass, but you also have Parissa Behnia. So what are you branding or what are you doubling down on that you want people to remember when they think about you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a very meta question that you're asking me. This year, I promised myself that I would invest heavily into the speaking portion of my platform, serving modern badasses or elevating the message of modern badasses. And when you go out and you want people to feature you as a speaker, as a conference, a workshop, or whatever, it's recommended that you brand yourself as the speaker. So I have actually reserved the domain parissabehnia.com, and I'm in the middle of creating that because the speaker brand is me. And what I talk about is modern badass, which to your point of I've branded who my ideal clients are. And the name of my business is Sixense Strategy. So this is not a great answer, but it's the best one I can give you. It's like a tapestry, like all things can be true at the same time. And depending on what's needed or what's appropriate, that is the brand that is front and center.
Right. No, I like that. And I kind of look at it to build on that because I have the same issue, right? I'm Sue Kirshner. I'm the one with the expertise on the brand strategy. And it doesn't matter whether I have teammates around me or not. It's me at this point. But I also have Brand Strong Marketing as my company name. And then now I'm working on this turbo branding podcast.
Yep.
Want to really elevate and take off. So I kind of view it as kind of like Sue Kirshner is the umbrella brand.
Right.
And hopefully that, I'm trying to make that stand for something with my expertise and my personality and how I'm going to market. And then underneath it, then I do have the company brand and I have the podcast brand. And you're right. It depends on if you're looking for a speaker, it's all Sue Kirshner all day long. If you're looking for, someone to come in and help you, transform your business by identifying your brand, then we're going to lead with Brand Strong Marketing, powered by Sue Kirshner. So,
yeah. And it's for the lay person like me, it can feel confusing. And so how you've described it just now, I'm like, oh, I should probably say it like that. So thank you. Like she's right. That's
take
why she paid the big bucks.
You're an umbrella.
No, it's easy to experience. It's natural, I should say, to experience a little resistance to do I really want to lead with my name when it comes to the speaking? And the reason why some speakers are effective is that they have allowed their humanness to come across the stage. Well, it's not my business that's on the stage, it's me.
Right.
And so keeping that in mind is that it's actually preferable. It's the wise thing to do to lead with the human when it comes to these one-on-one connections. And then to your point, when it comes to, in my case, advisory or coaching, then it's okay to lead with Sixense strategy.
Right. Right. No, I think it's what makes the most sense, right? From a business owner standpoint, it keeps it straight in your head, but
Yeah.
it also keeps it clear when you're trying to market yourself. So I'm gonna step back to the modern badasses again for a minute and just kind of discuss it. You and I have talked many times about how everyone in a company is a brand ambassador, right? Every single employee has the opportunity to make or break the brand promise. And we've talked about how do you make sure that people understand it and things like that. But again, I've heard you talk about sometimes these modern badasses just don't fit in. Can they
Mhm.
still be great advocates for a company brand if they maybe sometimes feel alienated? And I know it's a weird question, but I thought you and I could tackle this for a minute.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. And we answer this in two parts. The first part is it would be difficult for them to be a successful brand ambassador when they feel like there's a values misalignment.
Okay.
And if they found coaching, whether I'm not trying to hint that they should retain me, but and if they found coaching, or if they asked for help, or they went for leadership development and they were able to find a way to create a complementary understanding of where and how they fit and why they matter to the company. And their leaders also have a similar kind of approach to being clear on where and how they fit with the company, then yeah, absolutely, they can be really great brand ambassadors. There's a really great distinction, and regardless of badass or not, what I see across the board with all of my clients is there are expectations and there are agreements.
Mm.
Expectations, disappointed expectations, whatever you want to call it, those are things that we project on other people, but we never have a conversation about. But agreements are, we know exactly what an agreement is. I retain you to perform brand strategy services. You deliver the services back to me. We agree on what the timeline is. We agree however much the fees are. And in the event any one of us don't perform, there's something in an agreement that says, here's how we remedy that.
Mhm.
Every single leader across every single organization needs to lean into agreements so that regardless of badass, regardless of anybody, it almost doesn't matter if they're a badass. If we're all clear on what the strategy is, we're all clear on what the goal is, we're all clear on what it is that we're meant to do and why it is that we're meant to do it in service of the greater good.
Mhm.
And so it's an existential thing as a business. It's a strategic mandate for a business to do that, regardless of them having badasses on their team or not. So I kind of answered your question and didn't at the same time.
No, that was
But
great.
let's get clear. You can have badasses, you could have zero badasses on your team and be horrible brand ambassadors because they are not aligned or they're not clear on what the goal is or what the strategy is. So
Right.
we all have to get clear, get alignment, get agreement on what it is that we're doing, why it is that we're doing it. And then it doesn't matter if there are 10 badasses, two badasses, or zero badasses on a team.
Right. No, you're right. I absolutely agree. And number one, it's, like you said, the brand promise has to be clearly articulated to every single employee, whether they're badass or not.
Right.
Everyone needs to be painted a picture of how they help deliver that brand promise. If they
Exactly.
can see themselves and buy into that, then I think that's where everyone can then say, okay, I feel good about being the brand ambassador. And then it's up to leadership, um,
Yep.
with an empathetic mindset, which we're going to talk about empathy next, but an
Yeah.
empathetic mindset to say, okay, I understand this modern badass may do it a little differently than everyone else, but I absolutely trust their values and I trust that they understand the values of the company and the promise we're trying to make. That if they deliver it just a little bit differently, as long as the end result is to move that promise forward and not break it, I think they can definitely serve as brand ambassadors for me.
100%. And, embedded in this trust is our intentions are clear. We're also aligned and agreed on what the intentions are. So, yeah, to your point, it doesn't matter if they might do it differently. If, to your point, the trust is there 100%.
Right. All right. So, do you have maybe I'll ask, could you share a story of how you've worked with someone? And obviously, no names, no companies, anything
Right.
like that, but just kind of walk through the process of if someone were to start working with you and saying, okay, I'm having a challenge, how do you get them to the point where, yeah, they're awesome team members, they're awesome leaders. We absolutely need to keep them in this organization.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's also a sensitive question because at the end of the day, it's easy to believe that these people have, this impenetrable suit of armor, that they don't have feelings. It turns out all of modern badasses, any modern badass, any difficult leader I've worked with actually is one of the most sensitive people I've ever met.
Mhm.
So, and let's be clear that we are not talking about toxic leaders or malignant
Right.
narcissists. Those are people who are a class unto themselves.
Yes.
And so there is frustration there that they are misunderstood. And so the crux of the advising and coaching is, where are we misunderstood? How are we misunderstood?
Mhm.
Where might we not understand ourselves completely first? And once we get to that path of understanding who we are, what our values are, what drives us, what's important to us, how do we take that information and then share that with other people so that they understand our content and context a little bit better? At senior levels of an organization, look, I can't tell a CFO how to be a better CFO. That's not what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
What I am meant to do in any case where I actually have worked with a CFO, a COO, an EVP of a company, a director of innovation, it's all right, we know that they need you. We also know that something is missing in terms of the connectivity. So let's get clear on how others perceive us.
Mhm.
Let's get clear on what drives those perceptions. Let's get clear on who we are as people. And then let's take steps such that we start to have other people see that their perceptions are based on unfounded assumptions.
Mhm.
So it's, who am I? What are my values? Why are my values the most important values? What happens when I'm in alignment with my values? What happens when I'm not in alignment with my values? And how do I connect with other people so that I'm operating within my value set? And most importantly, how do I get curious about the person sitting on the other side of the table? What motivates them? What's important to them? What keeps them up at night? Such that when I'm having a conversation with them, I can relate to them in ways where they feel seen, understood, heard, respected, all the things.
Yeah. No, I love that. And again, the word that it just keeps bubbling up because I know you and we worked together for many years, this whole idea of empathy, and how you taught me more about empathy than even I was, cognizant of and in the role it played in getting things done. But I talk about empathy from the branding externally and from marketing is just walk a mile in your customer's shoes. You need to understand what challenges they're facing, what their needs are, and things like that. And it's all about, the better you can know your customer, the better you can brand and market to them. Your messaging will be more relevant. But on the internal side, right, you
Mhm.
have to have empathy from both the leadership team who is working with this modern badass, right? Because like, as you said, you're sitting across the table and you have to have empathy to say, okay, they're a little different. The way they process might be different than me, or the way they, get things done might be different for me. But then the modern badass also has to have the empathy to say, how are my actions or how is my attitude affecting other people? But I don't know. I don't know if you want to add anything more about empathy and leadership and how it plays into this modern badass ecosystem.
Yeah, reading the room is a thing, right?
Yeah.
So when they go 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, it's not because they want to alienate people. It's just that they are so excited about the possibility. They're
Mhm.
so excited about the future that they don't always remember to describe what the future is to the people around them.
Mhm.
And if they were to just slow down a little bit and explain what the opportunity set was and explain how everyone could potentially benefit, then the people around them actually will have no problem going 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, because to your earlier point, they will have understood what's in it for them. They will have understood how it works for them, or why it is that they are important to this mission. So ask questions, be curious. Don't assume that you should Superman or Wonder Woman all the time. Lean into being Clark Kent and Diana Prince instead. Remember that everyone has unique strengths and talents that they bring to the table that you don't necessarily have. And once we take off those superhero capes and we accept our mortality, it turns out that the collective moves much faster than 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, because we have allowed for it to be expansive. We have become curious. We have invited people in to what the adventure is. And the beauty of that is someone saying yes and to you, something that you wouldn't have contemplated on your own. Maybe they make things broader or more exciting or more upside because you have allowed for that to happen.
Yeah. Excellent. No, I'm excited, and I hope everyone's thrilled to hear, again, your insights on building your own brand, as well as this whole idea of modern badasses and empathy. And I hope someone walks into a room and sits around a table in the future and looks at everybody in a different light, and it makes a difference. But last question I have for you is, I'd like to end each one of these episodes giving a shout out to a small business that is just killing it when it comes to branding. So I want to see if you would maybe nominate or give a shout out to a company that you think just is amazing when it comes across on branding.
Oh, 100%. I split my time between Naples, Florida, and Chicago. Chicago will always have my heart. There is a resale store in Naples called True Fashionista. Turns out it's the largest retail or resale store, in all of Florida. And what is so good about what Jennifer Johnson has done is that she makes consigning easy. So I called a bunch of consignment shops for furniture, and it felt hard. It felt difficult, do this, that, or the other. And so not only did her team make it feel easy, they also paved the way to make it idiot-proof for me. Because a lot of times, we want to do something new. We might not have done it before. They have done all of the thinking. They'll say, oh, well, you need to get your furniture here. Here's the number of a moving company that you can use. So they care about your experience before, during, and after, and they are incredibly patient. And there's just this idea that we want to have fun when we do business with someone, that we want it to feel easy when we do business with someone. And I really think Jennifer Johnson has done a really good job of her team making it feel easy, no matter what the interaction point might be in the customer journey.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I get so inspired by companies who are doing the right thing and building a brand. So, Parissa, thank you so much for spending time with me today. If people want to learn more about how they can hire you as a coach or book you as a speaker or grab a copy of your book, where can they find you?
That's a great question. So I am on LinkedIn. You can find me, Parissa Behnia, on LinkedIn. Website is sixsensestrategy.com. And my Modern Badass quiz is on the site, and my book is on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, you can get it Audible, you can get a paperback, and it's called Modern Badass Tales from the Leadership Front.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Turbo Branding. I hope you've been inspired to ignite your growth by leveraging your brand. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could help me build the Turbo Branding brand. So please share this episode and be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe even leave a review. And if you or someone you know would be a great guest for the show, a founder or CEO with an inspiring branding story, please let us know in the comments or connect with us via email. But thank you, and stay tuned for our next episode.